They didn't even let him explain. The U.S. Marine stood on the porch, holding his twins' backpacks, when his in-laws threw the last bag into the dirt and told him to leave. His children cried, confused and terrified, while his father-in-law sneered, "You're broke. You bring nothing to this family. And those kids aren't our problem. Take your kids and get out," his father-in-law snapped. They threw his bags into the dirt. They laughed as his twins cried. They didn't care that he was a U.S. Marine. They didn't care that he was raising twins. Alone, the door slammed shut. In that moment, the Marine had nothing. No house, no savings, no help, no money, no shelter, no support. Just two small children clinging to him, and his K9 standing silently at his side. What no one knew, what not even he knew, was that the abandoned land everyone mocked held a $200 million inheritance buried in plain sight. What his in-laws didn't know, what no one knew, was that the land they mocked, the abandoned place they called worthless, was hiding a secret worth $200 million. And the first one to sense it wasn't a lawyer, wasn't a banker, wasn't even the Marine himself. That it was his K9.1 instinctive alert. One buried truth. And the people who humiliated him were about to face the most painful regret of their lives. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The argument didn't start loud, it started cold. The kind of silence that cuts deeper than shouting. The U.S. Marine stood in the living room holding a duffel bag in one hand and his twins' small jackets in the other, his K9 planted firmly at his side. Across from him, his in-laws stared like judges who had already reached their verdict. "You've overstayed your welcome," his father-in-law said flatly. The Marine blinked, confused. "I just need a little time. The kids are your responsibility," his mother-in-law snapped. "Not ours." The twins clung to his legs, sensing the tension. One began to cry. The other asked softly, "Daddy, are we in trouble?" That was when the door opened. His father-in-law grabbed the duffel and hurled it onto the porch. "You want charity? Find it somewhere else." Another bag followed. Then another. The K9 growled low, stepping protectively in front of the children. "Get your dog under control," the man sneered. The Marine said nothing. He knelt, zipped the twins' coats, wiped their tears, and stood tall, despite the humiliation burning in his chest. He walked out without looking back. The door slammed shut behind them. They stood in the dirt driveway with nowhere to go. Two frightened children, one loyal K9, and a man who had survived war, but had never felt this powerless before. The Marine didn't drive far. He couldn't. Gas was low, night was coming fast, and the twins were exhausted from crying themselves into silence. He turned down a cracked dirt road no one used anymore, headlights bouncing over weeds and broken fence posts, until the outline of an old farmhouse emerged from the darkness. It was the place his grandfather once owned. Most people called it worthless. A decaying house surrounded by overgrown land, forgotten by time and ignored by the family. But to him, it was the only place left that hadn't shut its door. He parked and stepped out. The porch sagged. Rusted barrels lay scattered across the field. Windows were dark and empty. The twins held his hands tightly. "Daddy, are we staying here?" One whispered. "For tonight," he said gently. "Just tonight." Inside, dust coated everything. The air smelled of wood and old memories. He spread blankets on the floor, making the space as warm as he could. The twins curled up together, finally drifting to sleep. That's when the K9 began to act strangely. The dog paced the room, nose low, tail stiff. He sniffed the floorboards, the walls, then rushed outside, barking softly near the old barn. "Easy, boy," the Marine murmured, tired. "There's nothing here." But the K9 didn't listen. Something about this land had caught his attention, something buried. Morning light crept through the broken windows, pale and quiet. The twins were still asleep when the K9 suddenly bolted upright, ears snapping forward. He rushed outside, barking sharply toward the barn. The Marine followed, boots crunching through wet grass, his instincts stirring. The dog stopped near the foundation, nose pressed to the dirt. He sniffed furiously, then began digging, fast, deliberate, focused. Dirt flew behind him as if he were trained for this exact moment. "Hey, easy," the Marine said, kneeling. What did you find? The K-9 didn't stop. Within seconds, metal scraped against claw. The Marine reached in and pulled free a heavy, rusted container sealed tight with bolts. It wasn't trash. It wasn't junk. It was deliberate. He wiped mud from the lid and froze. Stamped into the metal were faded letters and a symbol he recognized instantly. His grandfather's initials, etched beside an old banking crest. His pulse spiked. What were you hiding out here? He whispered that he pried the container open. Inside were thick envelopes wrapped in oilcloth, legal papers yellowed with age, and a leather-bound folder labeled with dates going back decades. Mineral rights, land trusts, private holdings. This wasn't abandonment. This was concealment. The Marine sank back onto the dirt, staring at the documents while the K-9 sat beside him, tail wagging once, slow, proud. The house wasn't worthless. The land wasn't forgotten, and his grandfather hadn't left him nothing that he'd left him everything. The Marine stared at the documents until the words finally sank in. His hands trembled, not from fear, but disbelief. Names, dates, signatures, all real, all legal, and all tied directly to his grandfather. This wasn't just land ownership. It was something far bigger. That he made the call from his old phone, standing outside the farmhouse while the twins watched through the window. The lawyer on the other end went silent as soon as the Marine mentioned the property address. "Sir," the man finally said, voice careful, "do not let anyone near that land." Within hours, a black SUV rolled down the dirt road. The lawyer stepped out, suit dusty, expression stunned. He walked the perimeter, reviewed the papers again, then looked up slowly. "Your grandfather placed everything into sealed trusts," he explained. "Oil, mineral rights, offshore accounts, long-term investments. This land alone controls access points worth over $200 million. The Marine felt the world tilt. "All this time," the lawyer continued, "your family assumed it was worthless. That's exactly why it survived untouched." The Marine thought of the night before, his twins crying, bags thrown into the dirt, doors slammed in his face, inside the farmhouse. The K-9 sat proudly by the children, tail steady, watchful. "He found it," the Marine said quietly. The lawyer nodded. "Then he saved your future." The Marine looked out over the land again. Everything had changed, but he hadn't, and that mattered most. The call came that evening, just as the twins were laughing for the first time in days. The Marine looked at the screen, already knowing who it was. He stepped outside, the farmhouse silhouetted behind him, and answered calmly. The voice on the other end sounded different now, shaky, polite, rehearsed. We didn't know," his father-in-law said quickly. "If we had known about the land, about the inheritance, things would have been different." The Marine said nothing. "We're family," his mother-in-law added, forcing warmth into her tone. "Families shouldn't fight over misunderstandings." A misunderstanding. The Marine closed his eyes briefly. He remembered bags thrown into the dirt, his twins crying on the porch, the laughter, the door slamming shut. "You knew enough," he replied quietly. "You knew I was a Marine. You knew I had children, and you still chose to throw us out." Silence followed. The K-9 stepped closer, sitting firmly at his side, eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the fields. "We just want to talk," the father-in-law pleaded. "To fix things." The Marine looked back at the farmhouse, at the lights on, at his children safe inside. "There's nothing to fix," he said evenly. "I won't seek revenge, but I won't forget." He ended the call. Behind him, the K-9 remained between the house and the road, silent, unmoving. A guardian. Some doors, once closed, were never meant to reopen. Months later, the farmhouse no longer looked forgotten. Fresh boards lined the porch. New windows caught the morning sun. Laughter replaced the silence that once lived there. The twins raced across the yard, their shoes kicking up grass instead of dust, their voices free and bright. The Marine watched from the porch, coffee cooling in his hand. Wealth had arrived quietly. Lawyers, accounts, contracts, but it hadn't changed him. He still rose early, still fixed things himself, still taught his children that dignity mattered more than money. The K-9 lay at his feet, alert as ever, eyes scanning the land he had uncovered and protected. A plaque near the barn read simply, "Found by loyalty." The Marine used the inheritance carefully. Veteran housing, scholarships for military families, medical funds for service dogs, Each decision felt like a continuation of his grandfather's plan, not a break from it. Sometimes he heard rumors about his in-laws. Regret, whispers, pride turned bitter. He never responded. The best answer had already been given. That evening, as the sun dipped low, the Marine knelt and pulled his twins close. The K-9 pressed against them, solid and calm. They had lost everything once and gained something far greater. Not just wealth, but peace and a future built on honor, earned, not inherited.